A great offensive Pokemon usually has multiple tools to handle the meta. Stab attacks, combined with coverage to hit the resist, ensure the best shot at being effective. But some Pokemon live and die by a single offensive move, and without it, they would likely crumble like a Nature Valley bar one bite in. Today I'm going to look at the top examples of Pokemon completely carried by one move. Think of it like a group project where one guy does all the work, except that guy is a move, and the rest of the set is just showing up for attendance. Now, this isn't just about Pokemon who happen to only use one attack a lot, like Seismic Toss Chansey. No, these are mons where, if you remove that one move, their entire offensive identity falls apart. Whether it's a niche gimmick or their only way to break through walls, these are the definition of one-trick ponies. I want to shout out my bud Expel for helping with this list as well. We actually started working on very similar videos, so expect something cool from him in the near future. The first, and perhaps most obvious choice for this list is Dracovish, a Gen 8 fossil that basically inspired this video. With 90 base attack and decent coverage like Psychic Fangs, Crunch, and Icing, all boosted by Strongjaw, you'd think it has options. But realistically, it's Fishious Ren or bust. This move, exclusive to Draco and Arctovish, comes in at a seemingly modest 85 base power, but doubles in power if the user moves before the target. No drawbacks like recoil, bad accuracy, or low PP, and will still double if hitting a switch in. That's 170 base power, before factoring that it's also boosted by Strongjaw, bringing it to truly absurd levels, stronger than moves like Giga Impact, and almost rivaling V-Create. This move single-handedly brought the fish into the Ubers tier, able to two-shot behemoths like Necrozma Duskmane. When you do some quick maths, it's pretty easy to see that using a Fishious Ren will almost always be the best option, as long as you're outspeeding. Even resisted, it comes in over 190 base power with the multipliers, which means it will hit harder than any of Dracovish's other attacks unless they're hitting super effectively. It is just an easy decision to click Fishious Ren 90% of the time unless the opponent has a water immunity. Without Ren, it would likely be worse than Arctovish, and if you ever seen that thing in action, you'd know that's not a compliment. Moving on to the other main inspiration to this video, Jirachi. While Jirachi can run a few nice support sets, I feel like its claim to fame for the past few generations has been its offensive sets. These sets are primarily built around clicking Iron Head and flinching the opponent down. Thanks to Serene Grace, Iron Head's flinch chance gets cranked up from 30% to a rage-inducing 60%. Jirachi primarily packs support around his Scarf sets, as Iron Head is the go-to move. Healing Wish to replenish an ally, U-turn to gain momentum on a bad matchup, and Trick to cripple a defensive mon and punish those dirty stall players. And yes, if you play stall, I'm talking to you. Seek help. Occasionally, you'll see Fire Punch or Body Slam to paralyze the target, but 9 times out of 10, you're probably clicking Iron Head and hoping the opponent never moves again. Jirachi without Iron Head would lose a ton of viability, and I could see its role competitively being shifted to mainly lower tier support, setting up rocks and passing wishes. Time for our first lower tier legend, Exploud, the original throat goat and one of my favorites on this list. Despite having wide coverage, if you've ever used this thing, you know the one move you're spamming is Boom Burst. This mon brings the boom wherever it goes with a 140 base power stab attack with no drawbacks. If Exploud showed up to karaoke night, the microphone would tap out from exhaustion. That's how strong this is. The only thing that blocks this move is the very rare soundproof ability, as Exploud has Scrappy to even hit ghost types. Exploud is definitely heavily carried by this move, easily shown by going from a PU Scrublord with Hyper Voice as its main attacking option in Gen 5 to an Arumon who could even wall break in UU in Gen 6 when Boom Burst was introduced. Even with power creep, it's never fallen down to the PU tier again, as Scrappy Boom Burst pretty much ensures some use for it, especially when spamming it with a choice specs. Flipping the switch, a mon who is in the higher tiers because of one move is Hisuian Samurott. This mon gained a signature move called Ceaseless Edge, and let's just say, it's pretty cracked. Bonkers even. A 65 base power dark type move with 90% accuracy doesn't look too epic at first glance, but then you see it also sets up a layer of spikes with each hit and is boosted by Samurott-H's sharpness ability. Alright, non-tauntable or bounceable spikes that also inflicts really great damage on a type with no immunities. There's a reason this mon is in the OU tier and its OG counterpart is ZU, and it's mainly because of this move. This makes Samurott a great lead to get up spikes while chipping down the opposition. It has other great damaging options, of course, your choice of a sharpness boosted water move, sacred sword, knockoff, a couple priority moves to keep in a pinch, but your main goal is to get those spikes up, and without this move, no ceaseless edge, no OU career. We covered Jirachi and its Iron Head flinch spamming. How about a mon even more reliant on flinch spamming? Of course, I have to include Togekiss on this list. Togekiss is a mon that almost exclusively relies on one attack. This is Air Slash, which is good for the same reasons Iron Head on Jirachi is. With Serene Grace, Air Slash turns a 30% flinch chance into a 60% chance. Flying is another type with no immunities, and this is even more spammable since it doesn't make contact. It's like being haunted by a marshmallow with wings that never lets you take your turn. In singles, Togekiss will often only run this move as its attacking option, with moves like Nasty Plot to power it up, Roost to stay on the field longer, and support moves like Thunder Wave or Heal Bell to round off the set. It does have good coverage options it can run for Steel and Rock types like Flamethrower and Aura Sphere, but being able to run those support options while being an offensive threat, allowing teammates to take care of its checks, just makes it that much more effective at its role. Next, we got a pair of Ubers that ride into battle with one goal: click their Busta's signature move and watch things faint. Calyrex Ice and Shadow have incredible offensive stats and crazy spread stab attacks to abuse them. Ice Rider has Glacial Lance that hits like a truck full of trucks, and Astral Barrage for Shadow Rider that tears through everything not normal or dark. I will mention that at least in doubles, Shadow Rider does tend to use its Psychic Stab a bit more, especially when paired with Indeedee to get off extremely threatening expanding forces, but for the most part, these two mons are spamming their signature moves. Ice Rider in particular really only needs to click Glacial Lance as its attacking move. It will otherwise try to set up a Trick Room for itself, boost with Sword Stance, or click high horsepower if against those nasty Steel type Pokemon. It is a very predictable mon, but a 120 base power stab ice type attack coming off that hulking 165 base attack is hard to play around no matter how much you prep. I guess you could always bring Thick Fat Walrein, which is basically the Pokemon equivalent of pulling up to a gunfight with a refrigerator. Calyrex Shadow has many common sets that run Astro Barrage as its only attack, Subseed with Nasty Plot, or running Disable over Leech Seed. It's worth it in a lot of situations to be walled by normal types since so few of them are commonly seen in the Ubers tier. You can run Psyshock for Blissey, but you're overall not gaining any real coverage since dark types are still immune. Draining Kiss is a solid option to try and chip down and beat dark types like a Veltal, but it is very weak. This one is definitely a case of a mon limited in its strong coverage options, but still so incredibly good because its raw power behind its one good attack makes it so hard to check unless bringing a hard counter. Shout out to all my kings, because up next is the king of OU, Kingambit. This Royal Menace has been consistently sitting atop usage charts in standard and national decks formats, and it's not hard to see why. This is thanks to the combination of its signature ability Supreme Overlord and the move Sucker Punch. As a slow, bulky attacker, you wouldn't expect gamers to save this mon as their last link and rely on it to sweep. But that is precisely what happens, as you've had to see the memes of the Kingambit Sucker Punch reverse sweep. Like, you know it's bad when your opponent starts typing GG before you even click the move. With priority Sucker Punch, Kingambit doesn't let its low speed stat get in its way, as it can easily delete teams that have been weakened with its 50% boosted stab attack. It hits like a truck full of kings. I'm sure Gambit would still be a decent mon without Sucker Punch, as it still has some solid traits, but try imagining a Kingambit without Sucker Punch as an option, and tell me if it would be nearly as viable. Sword Stance would be a lot less scary, easily revenge killable. It doesn't provide other utility with its moves, with lack of knockoff or pursuit in standard play, and its ability becomes a lot less impressive, giving it less reason to be saved late game. Time to give some love to the lone starter on this list, Serperior, aka the Leaf Storm Vending Machine. With Contrary, spamming this high power move swaps the downside of lowering the user's special attack by 2 stages to increasing it by 2 stages. So you get stronger and stronger while hitting a very strong stab attack. Serperior really has little reason to use other attacking moves, as support options like Glare and substitutes will be more effective in giving it more chances to boost and sweep. You can see a hidden power or Terra Blast thrown in depending on the gen, but it's pretty much just hitting that Leaf Storm as much as it can. Sure are a lot of steel types on this list. Another one is coming at you with Scizor. Scizor isn't quite as reliant as Serperior for its move, but it sure loves its Bullet Punch. Bullet Punch is why Scizor is still relevant in higher tiers. A priority stab move boosted by Technician, slapped onto a 130 base attack stat, makes Scizor a terrifying revenge killer and a dangerous win con after a single Sword Stance. It has a great defensive typing, but otherwise it's a slow, strong attacker that would probably struggle in the lower tiers without this move. You force a ton of switches and put on a lot of pressure on opposing teams. Obviously, you have your other stab U-turn for pivoting and great coverage options like knockoff and close combat that help a lot. But the importance of Bullet Punch can't be understated for this mon, as even if it just had Sword Stance and Bullet Punch, it would still be a threat. The second last mon to fully cover on this list is Zygarde. This is focusing on base Zygarde, not Zydog. Zygarde is a Pokemon who uniquely can rely on a mono ground attacking set. This is thanks to 1000 Arrows and its unique property of hitting flying and levitating mons. With 1000 Arrows, Zygarde effectively has no immunities outside of, say, Earth Eater Orform and Wonder Guard Shedinja. Niche counterplay I wouldn't worry about. 1000 Arrows is like if ground type attacks paid a DLC fee to hit airborne targets. This lets it run Dragon Dance to boost, Glare to slow down and hacks the opponent, and Substitute to buy itself more time, para turns, and lefties recovery while avoiding most status moves. 1000 Arrows brings the damage, as even Resist will struggle to take this decently powerful move after a few Dragon Dances. Zygarde can mix it up with Coil on bulkier sets with Sleep Talk over sub. It can often mix in other moves like Toxic or Dragon Tail for phasing, but its go-to and only attack it really needs is 1000 Arrows. And without it, these sets wouldn't be possible to run, hurting Zygarde's viability hard. A few quick honorable mentions before we get to the last mon on this list. These mons I think really enjoy having their moves, but I think would still be pretty good without them, and not strictly relying on them to be good offensively. If you made it this far, let me know which mon relying on one move is your favorite to use. And for crying out's sake, bullet punch that like button, try attack that sub button, and if you really want to go full gamer, Terra Blast your support all over me by ringing that notification bell. First is Zamazenta. It started off underwhelming in competitive play, but Gen 9 gave it new life with Body Press, a move that uses its humongous big defense to deal solid damage. This made it a real threat in both Ubers and OU, often paired with Substitute and Rest. Its biggest glow up came in recent VGC formats, where it was seeing more play than Zacian as a bulky support that can still hit hard while providing utility with Wide Guard. Coverage like Behemoth Bash or Heavy Slam helps it avoid getting walled by ghost types. I think it would still be pretty good without Body Press, but it helps a lot. Comfy is a mon that could go on the main list based on how hard it leans on draining Kiss, but its recent success in singles no doubt comes from Terrestrialization, granting it some real coverage in Terra Blast ground. The combination of these moves and even stored power allow Comfy to take on a lot of different mons with coverage, so it's hard to say this mon heavily relies on a single move, but it would definitely be a lot worse off without draining Kiss, so it deserves a mention. Rillaboom is another honorable mention. With the combo of Grassy Surge and Grassy Glide, it gains an incredibly powerful priority attack to spam, not caring about your speed stat. Even after they nerfed this move, it's still troublesome to deal with and a staple on Rillaboom. Idiotic not to run. Rillaboom is known for having great coverage though, and using it with moves like Knock Off, High Horsepower, Drain Punch, and even Wood Hammer as a secondary stab option. So while it is a lot worse without Grassy Glide, I would say it doesn't strictly rely on the move. Darmanitan is a literal nuke button with its Sheer Force boosted Flare Blitz. It is definitely its bread and butter, but you can't understate the value its coverage options have. Earthquake, Rock Slide, and U-Turn are all commonly seen options that really help Darm be a threatening wall breaker. It mostly wants to click Flare Blitz, but due to the nature of the move causing extreme recoil for Darm, these other moves are clicked to keep Darm around for longer. Fire Punch is also a decent weaker alternative, also boosted by Sheer Force without the recoil drawback. Unknown is literally reliant on Hidden Power as its best and only move. It's safe to say, this mon would struggle without this move in its arsenal. We started this video with Dracovish and its silly signature move, Vicious Wren, and we're going to come full circle with its counterpart, Dracozolt, and its silly signature move, Bolt Beak. Bolt Beak has similar properties to Vicious Wren that make it really powerful. An 85 base power physical attack on a good offensive type that is doubled if the user moves before the target. This makes Dracozolt an impressive wall breaker, able to crush non-resists that it can move before. What is impressive is that in its only competitive generation, Dracozolt, with these very middling stats, settled in the UUBL tier, basically only having this move as its calling card. It doesn't have Strong Jaw to boost its power, but it has something worse that mimics the effect. Dracozolt can use Hustle to power up its bulk beat to even crazier amounts of damage. A risky play as Hustle reduces your accuracy, but the damage output is no joke. Alternatively, you can go with Sand Rush and slap it on a sand team to outspeed and delete everything with Bolt Beak. No Hustle RNG required. Nearly every Dracozolt set is built around making that one move pop off. Whether it's Choice Scarf sets for speed control, or Substitute plus Fire Spin trap sets that lock out ground types, sure, it'll usually pack a Dragon move for coverage, but let's be honest, you're here to land the Bolt Beak. It's the whole game plan. So there you have it, an army of Pokemon carried by just one move. Some spam priority, some abuse signature nukes, some even just flinch for their lives, but they all prove the same thing. Sometimes, one broken move is all you need. But are there any I forgot? Let me know. Shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members, including Goldbud Mr. Frank Beans. If you want to support the channel, check out my links in the description. Thanks for watching, buds, and I'll see you in the next one.